Here. Welcome into the live show of the Too Tall Sports podcast. My name is Brett Lorin. I am your host, and we are streaming live on COLORCAST. You can find me there on the COLORCAST app. I'm also streaming live on YouTube as well. So we'll do this at the same time, a simulcast, just so I can get ready in case I ever become a big broadcaster someday. I got to look at the camera while we're doing this. So I will get to it, but this is week 3. Just want to give you my social media plugs just in case. So you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. My YouTube channel is Too Tall Sports Podcast. Go ahead and subscribe over there when you get a chance to do so. We post a lot of videos and all of our full episodes from the podcast, which we drop every Thursday morning. You can find those there on YouTube. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. We're on all the audio streaming apps as well. Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast, that's where we're going to be. So for this week's show, I'll give you the rundown. And then anytime you have questions during the show, feel free to type them in and I will get to them if it is relevant to the topic that we're on. Otherwise, I'll get them all at the end. Stuff I want to talk about this week. Definitely some NFL recap. We'll talk about the Rams having a big win this weekend over Tampa. We will talk about what it's like to be, I don't know what it's like, but what it seems like to be a Lions fan because they had some history happen to them, of course, this past weekend with Justin Tucker. We'll talk about some 1-2 teams in the NFL and also some 3-0 teams and some of the differences between them, who's real, who's not, and why some of these teams are stumbling out of the gate here. Some of the good teams like Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Seattle. I'll also mention Cedric Mullins. He was the outfielder for the Baltimore Orioles that had some history happen to him as well this past weekend. 30 homers and 30 stolen bases. That's the first time in Orioles history that's happened. I'll talk about that. Tom Brady going back to New England. I will talk about that as well, kind of the emotions behind that, what it's going to be like in Foxborough. I want to do some Ryder Cup a little bit, talking about the win for the U.S. team in the golfing world. And if we have time, we'll get to some Ben Simmons not wanting to go back to Philadelphia and Kyrie Irving being difficult as usual. So any of those topics or any topic that you want to discuss, I'm open for questions. Just type them in the chat and I will definitely get to them whenever I can. So let me start with kind of the biggest game of the weekend definitely was the Rams playing against Tampa Bay. Tom Brady's first time ever playing in Los Angeles. I think that was kind of surprising. He's been in the league for over 20 years. And it was cool to see him at SoFi against a very competitive Rams team. And Brady played well. He threw for over 400 yards, only had one passing touchdown, but he did his patented sneak that he had. So he ran one in as well. But he was flinging it all over the place, and they really didn't have the lead much in the game. So I think just coming from behind, they had to do so. The running game wasn't really there for Tampa. They did use Giovanni Bernard, who's kind of had a resurgence lately, spending all those years in Cincinnati, coming over to Tampa, and they targeted him a lot. They used him a lot in the pass game. So they did not have Antonio Brown. That was kind of a drawback for Tampa, but I don't think it would have mattered, honestly. I mean, maybe it would have, but the Rams are just on another level. You can just tell. We talked about it, I think, in week 1 with Matthew Stafford. It just feels different out here, especially just listen to the media and you watch Sean McVay, like how excited he is. This is a different Rams franchise at this point. I think Aaron Donald talked about how a few years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, everybody was in sync. Everyone's getting along. It was more of a team feel. And everything just felt right. And now with Stafford, and you guys have probably seen Goff in Detroit lately, he's just not the guy. He just is incapable of doing some of the things that Stafford is doing. It doesn't have to be such a perfect offense for Jared Goff. It doesn't have to be all the routes have to be perfect and the timing right. Matthew Stafford does things that some quarterbacks just physically can't do, and Goff just can't do it. And even just seeing McVay after the big bomb from Stafford to the hometown kid, Deshaun Jackson, at 34 years old, still running by people. And Stafford hit him for the bomb for a touchdown, and McVay ran all the way down the sideline to congratulate him. So it was pretty cool. You can just tell McVay, the way he talks, the way he gets excited about Stafford. You can open the playbook a little bit more. It's a different vibe in LA, especially at SoFi Stadium. You know, it's going to be rocking. I will actually be going there this weekend to see the Rams and Cardinals play. I'll get to both of those teams in a minute as far as their records go, but both 3-0. It's going to be crazy at SoFi. My first time there, so I'm excited to see two really good teams in the NFC West that are definitely going to be contenders at the end. But overall, huge game for the Rams. It was definitely a statement win. It wasn't a must win, but it was definitely like, okay, we can play with these guys. We're definitely going to be there at the end. And we're going to be tough to beat. Defensively, offensively, the only question mark is the running game with Sony Michel possibly. But he filled in nicely for Darrell Henderson. And, I think as long as he can be serviceable, then I think the Rams are going to have a good shot down there at the end. I wanted to skip to I mentioned off the top, the Lions. It is difficult to be a Detroit sports fan. The last championship they won was 2004 with the Pistons, you might remember. But that's about it. They really, other than that 06 run with the Tigers, that was pretty much it. The Red Wings have been good for a long time in hockey, not recently, but they had a long run. But being a Lions fan is probably, other than a Browns fan, maybe Minnesota Vikings for certain people that are listening tonight. Being a Lions fan is probably the toughest team to root for in sports. There's just no other way around it. And this weekend, Justin Tucker, the kicker for the Baltimore Ravens, made NFL history by successfully converting a 66-yard field goal that I'm sure, if you didn't see it, hit the crossbar, bounced in for the record and for the win against the Lions. So the Ravens won. Everybody freaked out. Lamar Jackson converted like a 4th and 19 to get him in position to get that playoff. It shouldn't have happened, but just typical Lions. And there's a lot of social media videos out there about the Lions fans. Of course this happens to us. We're the Lions. They do have a new coach who's on a 6-year deal. It's still a rebuild. Unfortunately, they have Jared Goff. I don't see long-term. Again, Goff is just not that dude. He's just not. It's going to be hard to see his future really anywhere. I mean, he's okay, but they're in games, which is good. I'll say that for Detroit. They're in games, but they're not winning. They're not finishing. They're not making the plays necessary to be a really even average team in the NFL, it's tough. They're 0-3. They've been in the games, but they're not impressive. They don't do anything that is special. So it's going to be a tough road for the Lions this year. But I just thought it was funny, of course, a classic Lions fan move to get a history made against them. But and you can see Matthew Stafford, how much happier he is out of Detroit. They've alienated every superstar that's come through there, whether it's Barry Sanders retired early, Calvin Johnson retired early, and now Matthew Stafford wants out after 12 years and is like, I can't win here. I can't do this anymore. So I think he had enough, and it was time for everybody to move on. But I'm glad to see Stafford get out of there. Just really tough to be a Detroit Lions fan. But we'll see how the rest of the season goes for them. I want to jump into some surprise 1-2 teams. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll definitely answer those. And if not, then forever hold your peace. But if you'd like to drop some questions in, please do. I'd be happy to answer those. Let's move on to the 1-2 teams that are the surprises in the NFL right now. The Kansas City Chiefs are 1-2. Did not see that coming. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 1-2. They don't look very good. And the Seattle Seahawks are kind of surprisingly 1-2. Let's start with Kansas City. They lose a tough one against the Chargers. And by the way, the Chargers look really good. Even at 2-1, the Chargers look very good. Again, totally different offense without Tyrod Taylor there. And now you full-time get Justin Herbert. Second year in, he looks really good. And the Chargers, they just have all the pieces, kind of like the Rams. The two LA teams have their quarterback, and they're set up on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I really like what I'm seeing from the Chargers right now. As far as Kansas City goes, I'm not really sure why they're 1-2. I don't know if they're just kind of. It's hard to have success and then continue that success year after year after year. When guys get paid, guys move on, you get injuries. It's not the same anymore. And they have been. I mean, obviously they went back, to this Super Bowl, but it's a very difficult thing to do to repeat that kind of success. And there's going to be a hangover naturally. So I don't think this is a surprise. I believe in Andy Reid long-term, the coach of the Chiefs. He will turn this around. Patrick Mahomes is way too good. That offense is way too good to stay down like they are right now. So I think the Kansas City Chiefs would be fine. It's just a little bit surprising that they're 1-2. I would like to say the Steelers are surprisingly 1-2, but honestly, I'm not surprised. They looked terrible this past weekend. Big Ben getting sacked a lot. They made him throw 58 times, and he only completed 38 of those. I know that's over 50%, but not very impressive showing by the Pittsburgh Steelers. They can't run the ball. They're targeting Najee Harris more than anybody on the team as far as receiving targets and receptions goes. I think he was targeted 19 times, if I'm correct. I mean, that's a lot to go to your running back and just forget about the other receivers. Big Ben clearly isn't the same. And I think some of the analysts on TV, the sports shows, were talking about how there's really no succession plan beyond Ben Roethlisberger. Like Mason Rudolph ain't it. Let's just be real about that. I'm not sure what they're going to do as far as finding a replacement for Big Ben, but if there's any time to draft a quarterback that you can at least groom behind him for another year, now is the time. They got to start finding that next guy that's going to take over for Big Ben. And Mike Tomlin's been there for a long time. He's never had a losing season in his entire career as a coach, which is very, very impressive and very hard to do. And thank you, Jay Mike. Yes, Mason Rudolph is definitely not going to be the guy long term. Last year, he almost got decapitated by Myles Garrett when he swung his helmet at him. That was kind of funny, even though luckily no one was hurt there. But Mason Rudolph is not the answer. So you'll be curious to see what the Steelers do long term with Mike Tomlin, and if he survives. I think he will. The Steelers don't move; they don't make knee-jerk reactions. But Big Ben's clock is ticking. We'll just say that. And then let's move on to the Seahawks. I mean, they had not as much turmoil as Green Bay did in the offseason, but enough to kind of move the needle a little bit. Russell Wilson wasn't happy. He wanted more control. He wanted to say in that Seattle front office kind of decision-making. And once you become a star, you deserve to have a little bit of say. Not saying you should make all the personnel moves, but you definitely deserve to be in the conversation as someone that is important and their opinion matters in the locker room or in the front office, I would think. Every great quarterback wants that too. And I'm sure Brady had some say in New England of guys that he liked or guys that he wanted. So I think if you're a great quarterback, like Aaron Rodgers was preaching all offseason, you need to be rewarded with a little bit of say. It was much tighter and cleaned up a lot nicer than Green Bay as far as Seattle goes. But a surprising 1-2 start. This division in the NFC West is really good. And a lot of people are saying the best division with the Rams, Cardinals, and who am I forgetting in the NFC West? Seattle Niners. Sorry. Yes, AFC West as well. But the NFC West with the Niners, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals, arguably the best division. I'm not a believer in the Niners right now. Jimmy Garoppolo is not the answer. I don't see it for them. But it's very surprising to see Seattle in last place and Pittsburgh and Kansas City also at the bottom of their division. Very surprising to see those teams where they are. But yes, the AFC West, thank you, Dodgers 11, for pointing that out. Very good conference, or very good division, excuse me. They're going to be tough, especially if Kansas City's the worst team. That's definitely a great division there. Let's move on to some 3-0 teams so far to start the year. I'll decide if they're fool's gold or not. You got Denver at 3-0, Arizona 3-0, the Las Vegas Raiders 3-0, Carolina is 3-0, and of course the Rams are 3-0. So we talked about the Rams a little bit. Let's talk about some of these other teams. The Denver Broncos are 3-0, yes, and two-glove Teddy Bridgewater, as they call him. If you didn't know, he wears two gloves while he's playing quarterback, which is unorthodox, but hey, he makes it happen. He can throw. They got a lot of weapons there. Their defense is good. They got Von Miller back, ready to go. But Denver has beaten 3 teams that are a combined, wait for it, 0-9 on the season so far. So in theory, they haven't really played anyone yet. They're going to get a test this weekend, I believe. I was going to check the schedule here. I believe the Broncos are at home, but they're playing the Ravens, who are coming off a big win against the Lions. But the Ravens are 2-1. It's going to be at least their first test for the Broncos. So we'll see what happens with them. I don't know. Obviously, they're not going to keep this up. Like they're good, but they're not that good. I don't know how it will be actually interesting to see when they play the Raiders and the Chargers. They start playing some of these divisional games, especially if they got to play Kansas City twice. I don't see Denver beating Kansas City twice. It's not going to happen. I guess until it does, then I'll become a believer. But when you're 3-0 and you haven't played anybody that has won a game yet, I'm not a believer in you. The Arizona Cardinals have been great. They did beat Jacksonville over the weekend, but they're 3-0 and they look really tough. Kyler Murray looks good. Their offense is stout. They obviously have DeAndre Hopkins now, and they lost Larry Fitzgerald to retirement, but to replace him with D-Hop is a big deal. So Arizona is going to be really good. And of course, like I mentioned off the top, they're going to play the Rams this weekend. So 2-3-0 teams in LA. It's going to be a really good matchup. Somebody's going to lose a game, but it should be a very, I would think, a pretty high scoring game. I know both defenses are good, but these offenses are way too high powered for it not to be. So I think it'll be a good game between the Rams and the Cardinals. The Las Vegas Raiders win again. They will have a decent test this week. Let's see who the Raiders got. Oh, they had Monday night against the Chargers in LA. It's going to be a lot of Raider fans there at the new stadium. It's probably going to be 75% Raider fans, 25% Chargers. That will be a big game. That'll be a lot of fun, actually. It'll be interesting to see Derek Carr go up against the Chargers defense, and then Herbert also going to get up against the Raiders defense as well. Should be an exciting game on Monday night, though. Chargers right now early favorite by 3.5 at home, over under 52.5, so it's going to be high scoring. But that'll be a fun game to watch, so I'll definitely be tuning in on Monday night. And lastly, we mentioned him in the first 2 weeks, Carolina Panthers 3-0. I mean, I guess you would think with more talent in Carolina, you would have thought Sam Darnold would have done better, but I didn't think he'd be this good, and I didn't think the Carolina Panthers would be this good either. But they're 3-0, so props to them. They got a big game against Dallas on Sunday in Dallas against the Cowboys, who crushed the Eagles last night. I think the Panthers can beat them. Now, obviously, they lost Christian McCaffrey, so it's not going to be that simple. But I don't know. I think Carolina can go in there and beat the Cowboys. If you guys have any thoughts on that, let me know. But I think Carolina is capable. It's a different identity this year. So and Sam Darnold's playing out of his mind. If you have any football questions, feel free to drop them in. I'm going to move on to baseball now for a minute. So I will be, and I'll get back to those if you guys have any football questions. If not, I'm going to move on to baseball. I wanted to mention, let's see. Oh, good question by my good friend J Mike here. Who's going to end up being the best LA team? If we're talking about football, I think it's going to be the Rams. The Chargers are very good, but if I had to choose right now who's ready this second, I'm going to choose Stafford over Justin Herbert right now. And I just think overall the Rams have a better just squad. They just have a better team than the Chargers. However, the Chargers are going to be really tough to beat. But if I'm going to lean toward one way right now, I'm going with the Rams and the Ramily, because I might even convert myself into a Rams fan. It's pretty exciting over here. I did grow up a Niners fan, full disclosure, but you know what? We didn't have a team when I was growing up. So maybe I'm allowed. We'll see if Dodgers 11 agrees with me on that, if I'm allowed to switch teams now that the Rams have come back to Los Angeles. I will move on to baseball here. Cedric Mullins, like I mentioned off the top, had accomplished something that it has never been done in Baltimore Orioles history before. 30 homers and 30 stolen bases. Really impressive by him. And I made a video about this that I'm going to post on my Instagram, by the way, at Too Tall Sports Podcast. Or if you're on TikTok, it's at Too Tall Sports. I make them all there, and I repost them on Instagram. But there have been some Hall of Famers that have come through, and great players that have come through the Orioles organization. So a guy like Frank Robinson comes to mind. Never had 30 homers and 30 stolen bases in the same season. So some of these guys I'm going to mention have had more homers, no question there. But they haven't had both homers and stolen bases in the same year. The second guy, of course, was Cal Ripken Jr. Now, obviously not a burner, not the fastest guy in the world, but he did make 19 straight All-Star games in Major League Baseball. And he was the Iron Man, most consecutive games played. I just thought maybe one of those seasons he'd run into a few more stolen bases than he ever did, but still didn't get 30 homers and 30 stolen bases. I also talked about in the video I'm going to post, Adam Jones, longtime Baltimore Oriole. He's got the speed and the pop. He never did it. Nick Markakis was a longtime Baltimore Oriole. He never did it. Somebody brought up to me Brian Roberts had a shot at it, but he never did it. And, of course, I thought the biggest name that probably should have been able to do this was Manny Machado. Most of you know before he went to the Dodgers and eventually the Padres, Manny Machado was a Baltimore Oriole for a very long time. And he never had 30 homers and 30 stolen bases. Again, had more homers sometimes, but not the stolen bases in between. So really impressive to see Cedric Mullins, who, by the way, I don't know if you guys knew this, 2 years ago was optioned back down to AA. He was hitting .094 in the big leagues, .94 as his average, and he got sent down. And now he's back, made a name for himself. Obviously, the Orioles are not a good baseball team, but I thought it was pretty cool to see that for a guy that basically didn't have much of a career in the big leagues, and to do something for the first time in history in a positive note for the Orioles was really cool. So props to Cedric Mullins on that. Just wanted to throw that out there. If you have any baseball questions, throw them out there. I'm going to move on to Tom Brady. Actually, I probably should have done that before, but I'm going to go on to Tom Brady. After a huge loss at the hands of the Los Angeles Rams, Tom Brady is going back to New England for a very emotional Sunday night game in Foxborough against his old team, the Patriots, and his old coach, Bill Belichick. Good old Bill. I think it's going to be emotional for Tom. Spent 20 years there, 6 Super Bowls. How could you not be emotional about that, especially if you're a Pats fan? What do you do if you're a Patriots fan? I'll throw it out to you guys. What do you guys think? Do you stand? Do you give him a standing ovation? I think you have to. I mean, that franchise, let's be honest, before Brady got there, that franchise, and Belichick for the most part, but before Brady got there, that franchise was weak. They were bad in the 90s. They didn't do anything. And then Brady gets there and takes him on a huge run over the last 20 years. So I think he will get a standing ovation. Yeah, exactly. He better get exactly. Thank you, Dodgers 11. He did win 6 rings. I would think they would cheer for him. I don't see any boos. And remember, Gronk, too, is coming with. He spent enough time in New England, too. So I think he'll get cheers, too. How could you not? So it'll be a fun game to watch. The media is going to be all over it. It's going to be a lot of hype. Sunday Night Football in Foxborough against the Patriots. I think the Patriots will actually get up for this game. However, they just don't have the talent. So I think Tampa's going to win probably pretty easily. It'll be a little tight in the beginning, but I think Tampa pulls away late, big time. So that'll be exciting. A couple things I wanted to get in before I open it up. I wanted to. Oh, and one other thing about this weekend. Drew Brees retired after last year, and he held the lead, a narrow lead for passing yards in the history of the NFL, most passing yards. And of course, Tom Brady already in week 4 is going to pass Drew Brees and break that record of most passing yards of all time, assuming it all goes to plan in New England. But I actually think it's cool that he's going to break the all-time passing record in New England, where it all started for him. Like I said, where he spent plenty of time. And yes, we do have some Tampa fans on the line here. So I guarantee you the Bucs will win that game. But I do want to mention that sucks for Drew Brees, who just retired and literally held one of the best records a quarterback could ever hold. And the old man Brady comes in. He's going to break it at home. But I actually kind of think that's cool. So it'll be a cool moment when he does that. You only need 68 yards to break the record. So it'll be fun to watch. I want to throw in some Ryder Cup stuff. Big win for Team USA. If you guys didn't know, the Team USA Golf had lost the last 7 out of 9 Ryder Cups, and they're every other year. So we've had lots of years of getting our asses kicked by the Euros. And this year, we finally turned it around. 8 of the top 10 players in the world of golf are American, outside of John Rahm, who's number 1 in the world, and Louis Oosthuizen, who's, I believe, number 8 or 9 in the world. Outside of those 2, 8 of the top 10 golfers in the world are American. They're young. They're hungry. They have more talent than everybody else in the world. This is a huge win. I wanted to throw out some stats for you guys as far as that goes. Team USA was able to score 19 points as a team. That's the most since 1979. 14 wins by rookie participants in the Ryder Cup. 14 wins is the most since 1979 as well. And Dustin Johnson went 5-0. He's the first American to go 5-0 in his matchup since 1979 as well. This was a clear and dominant, forceful win by the United States. I love to see the passion. I love the fans. They were all into it. This is how golf should be. And even Rory McIlroy, who I saw got interviewed, was emotional about, hey, I know we lost, but I love this event. This is how golf should be. So it's cool to see the emotion and the passion. We finally got to play on this time at least on our home turf in Whistling Straits, which is a famous course in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Also, I believe it's near Kohler, Wisconsin. By the way, all your toilets and faucets and bathtubs are made in Kohler, Wisconsin. If you ever see the name Kohler, that's where they're from. Side note that means nothing to this conversation. But anyway, big win for the Americans. Pretty cool to see us show our dominance, and the future looks very bright for USA Golf. So pretty exciting stuff there. Last things, I just want to mention a couple things. Feel free to start dropping your questions in. Ben Simmons, talking about the NBA now. Ben Simmons made it clear he does not want to come back to Philadelphia. He wasn't playing around. They started training camp. It was media day today and yesterday. And Ben Simmons, I believe today, said he doesn't want to play with Embiid. They clog up the same parts of the paint. They can't play together anymore. Doc Rivers has been trying to walk his comments back about, well, can Ben, someone asked him after the playoffs last year, can Ben start for a playoff caliber NBA team? And he said, I'm not sure at this point. I don't know how else anyone's supposed to take that, but Ben Simmons took it to heart. And I'm with him. When your coach doesn't give you the vote of confidence, why would you want to come back and play against them or play for them? Excuse me. So I'm not sure what is going to happen with Ben Simmons. He may hold out until they trade him and play hardball. He's made a good amount of money already. It's not like, he's going to be getting fined every single day he misses camp, but I don't think he's coming back. I know players usually have no leverage. He tried to tell the team to trade him over the summer, and they didn't do it. So I don't see Ben Simmons coming back. It's not a good fit. Anyway, it's just clearly not. He needs to go somewhere else. If it were me, I thought they were trying to float around Golden State, maybe for Draymond, because they kind of play a similar style of can't shoot, but set up the offense at the top of the key. I wouldn't mind seeing Ben Simmons in Golden State. But I thought the natural move was to go to Portland and throw Dame and Ben Simmons together, get rid of CJ McCollum, because obviously in Portland, how many years are we going to do this with them? 8+ years with that duo? It's not enough. Good players, but it's just not enough. So maybe try something different. I thought Portland was a logical landing place for Ben Simmons, but clearly nothing's happened yet. So we'll see what happens there. Just a last little throw in. Kyrie Irving, of course. Now, your stance on the vaccine can be whatever it is, but he's just making things difficult again. Like, the league is mandating that you get your vaccine. 90% of the league apparently has gotten the vaccine, and Kyrie Irving is saying don't bother him about it. By the way, New York has a strict policy. He can't practice in New York with the Nets, and he can't play in any home games in New York with the Nets. He's just being Kyrie again. He's just being super difficult like he always is. It's annoying. I'd be annoyed if I were Kevin Durant. You got a small window here with him, Harden in their prime, and Kyrie. Like, I don't know what else to tell you with Kyrie. Like, this is our chance to win a championship, and you're being difficult again. Who knows if he takes another sabbatical right after the season starts? He's just so unpredictable. What do you do with Kyrie? I don't know what to do with the guy. So very frustrating to deal with his stuff. So anyways, I will leave it up to questions. I will stay on a little longer here, even though we're right up to the 8 o'clock hour on the West Coast here. But I'm open for questions. If anyone wants to talk about anything baseball, basketball, football, anything sports related, I'm open for questions. So I'll give you guys some time to ask. I know Dodgers 11 probably has a lot to ask me, so I'll wait for him to drop a question. Or if he wants to come on the hot seat and ask me a question himself, he can do that as well, or anybody that wants to jump on. But let's see. Which two teams will meet in the World Series and who will win it, in your opinion? Great question, Dodgers 11. Thank you. I am going to say, as of right now, this moment, even though Tampa's playing really well for the AL, I think the White Sox could sneak in. I really do. Not sneak. I know they won their division, but like sneak in as kind of I don't know. I just feel like the White Sox could get there. And I think the White Sox will meet. Oh, man, I hope so. And when I say we, I mean the Dodgers. I still believe in the Dodgers and the White Sox meeting in the World Series. I think if we can, I don't know if we're going to get the play-in game, if we have to, whatever we got to do. But I think the Dodgers and White Sox could be a likely World Series matchup. And if we face them, the Dodgers are going to win it all. Let's go. Obviously, it's a long shot, but I still think we have the best pitching staff out there as far as the Dodgers go. The top four, give me Scherzer in any game, anywhere. I'll take Scherzer against everybody. I don't care if it's Wainwright. I don't care if it's any Braves pitcher. I don't care if it's San Francisco. Give me Scherzer against the world, and I'll take our chances with that. JMac253 says, who's going to snag the AL wildcard spots? Give me a second here. I need to look at the standings exactly where we're at. If from my memory serves, so the Yankees have a 2-game lead over Boston, and Boston only has a 1-game lead over Toronto and Seattle. Oakland's still hanging in there with 3 games. They're probably not going to make it. It looks like it's going to be New York and Boston. Toronto's got a good team. They just need a couple more wins before the season's over. Seattle, I doubt it. But man, it looks like the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox are going to be the final 2 AL wildcard teams. Tampa's obviously great. They're going to be tough to beat. And no one wants to see the Houston Astros do anything. However, they're 91-65. they're going to be hard to beat as well. So anybody but Houston at this point. I just don't want to see them win anything. So I don't want to see any Houston stuff anywhere. Tampa's, of course, Mr. Tampa down there. They're going to be really good. And they got that guy, Brett Phillips, who you know well. So he's going to be tough as well. He's going to be fun to watch. It wouldn't surprise me if the Dodgers or Giants face the Tampa Bay Rays in the World Series. I just don't. My prediction is I think the White Sox have a little bit of everything, and I believe it's going to be Dodgers White Sox in the World Series. Just wishful thinking there for the Dodgers. Let's see what else. Any other questions as far as that goes? Baseball related, or football related, or basketball related? As a former baseball player, how do I compare baseball now to 10 years ago? Even 7 years ago. So I retired in 2014, so 7 years ago. And the game has changed so much in the last 7 years. Like, there was no analytics talk when I was still playing. There was no launch angle talk, exit velocity. Some of these stats, I was actually thinking about this before I got on. I don't care about some of these new age stats. I really don't. Like, it doesn't tell me, like, what does it tell me? Some of them are important. I get that. But I like the old school stats. Like, give me average, give me RBIs, hits, runs, strikeouts, walks. Give me all that stuff. Exit velocity, yes. Do you hit the ball hard? Barrel percentage, sure. Okay, yes, you make hard contact. It does, to me, I don't know. Lineouts get caught too, and little dinks get dropped for base hits. So I don't care about launch angle. I don't care about exit velocity. And as far as pitching goes, can you get people out? That's all I care about. Like, what's your ERA? I like WHIP, walks in hits per innings pitched. I like that. That's a good stat. But all the other weird ones, I just don't go for. As far as defensive runs saved is kind of a big deal. That lets you know how a player or a team is playing defensively, and if they're legitimately stopping runs from being scored. I enjoy that. That's a good stat. But like I said, some of these that I can't even say. I'm just like, I don't even care. So on base percentage is important. Slugging percentage, yes, but I'm an old school guy. I like the old school stats. So I can't even understand some of the stuff that's going on right now as far as stats goes. So I try to keep it simple. Wins and losses, those are the best ones. So, all right. Any other questions before I sign off here for this week 3 of our ColorCast and YouTube Live we are doing here? I will mention the plugs in again. This Thursday, I have a podcast, Too Tall Sports Podcast. This Thursday is going to be one of my favorite people I ever played against. His name is Jeremy Barfield. You might recognize the name. His dad played in the big leagues, Jesse Barfield, and his brother, Josh Barfield, played in the big leagues as well. So I played against Jeremy a lot in the minor leagues. He and I had similar careers, similar paths up to the I almost said up to the big leagues, up close to the big leagues to AAA. So that'll be a really fun episode. He's got some great stories from his career, and we crossed paths a couple times in our career. So we talk about that. And he's also a gamer. He streams live on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, playing MLB The Show and crushing 12-year-olds. So it's a fun episode for sure. So that's Too Tall Sports Podcast. You can find me there. All the episodes are going to be dropped every Thursday morning, so be on the lookout for that. And if there's any other questions you guys have, let me know. Otherwise, I will be signing off, and I'll be posting lots of new videos on my Instagram at Too Tall Sports Podcast. You can follow me there. And any questions, feel free to send me a DM as well. I'll answer any questions sports related. So always here for those. Love to talk sports, love to debate. Hit me up on the chat, whatever it is. But as for week 3, I'll be signing off. Thank you to ColorCast and YouTube Live, and I will see you guys next week, Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, for another fun show. Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.